Jai Om Vishnupad, Srila Bhakti Pavan, Janardan Maharaj Ki Jai.
Vandeyam Shri Guru Shiyatam Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raganatam Bitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sabadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Paran Sahagana Lalita Shivishikam Bitam Cha Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnanajana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Gurva Bhishtam Supurikam Gurganara Sisha Sambhushitam Chintya Chintya Samasta Veda Nipanam Shri Rupa Patanagam Govinda Vidam Ujwalam Bharatanum Bhaktyan Vidam Sundaram Bande Vishwagurun Cha Divyat Bhagavat Premnawe Bija Pradam Devam Divyatanam Suchandabananam Balarka Chilanchitam Sandrananda Puram Sadekavaranam Vairagya Vidyambudim Sri Siddhanta Nidhim Subhakti Lasitam Saraswatanam Baram Bandetam Shivaram Madeka Sharanam Yashishwara Shridaram Sri Siddhanta Saraswatiti Vidito Gaudiya Gauravanvai Mato Banoriva Prabhata Gagane Yogora Sankirtanai Mayavada Timingelo Daragatan Udritya Jivaniman Krishna Prema Sudabdi Gahana Sukam Pradat Prabhum Tambaje Namo Vanshakapatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhevacha Patitanam Pavenebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Panchatatvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhakta Avataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam Namo Mahavaranyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gauratavishe Namah. So we're reading the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita with translation and commentary by Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupad. We're starting with the Adi-lila. This is chapter 1, and it's entitled The Spiritual Masters. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is none other than the combined form of Sri Radha and Krishna. He is the life of those devotees who strictly follow in the footsteps of Srila Rupa Goswami. Srila Rupa Goswami and Srila Sanatana Goswami are the two principal followers of Srila Swarup Damodar Goswami, who acted as the most confidential servitor of Lord Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, known as Vishwambar, in his early life. A direct disciple of Srila Rupa Goswami was Srila Raghunath Das Goswami. The author of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj, stands as the direct disciple of Srila Rupa Goswami and Srila Raghunath Das Goswami. The direct disciple of Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami was Srila Narottam Das Thakur, who accepted Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti as his servitor. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti accepted Srila Jagannath Das Babaji, the spiritual master of Srila Bhaktivedanta Thakur, who in turn accepted Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji, the spiritual master of Om Vishnupad Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj, the divine master of our humble self. Since we belong to this chain of disciplic succession from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, this edition of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita will contain nothing newly manufactured by our tiny brains, but only remnants of food originally eaten by the Lord himself. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu belongs to the transcendental plane beyond the reach of the imperfect sense perception of a living being. Even the most erudite, mundane scholar cannot approach the transcendental plane unless he submits himself to transcendental sound with a receptive mood, for in that mood only can one realize the message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. What will be described herein, therefore, has nothing to do with the experimental thoughts created by the speculative habits of inert minds. The subject matter of this book is not a mental concoction, but a factual, spiritual experience that one can realize only by accepting the line of disciplic succession described above. Any deviation from that line will bewilder the reader's understanding of the mystery of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, which is a transcendental literature meant for the postgraduate study of one who has realized all the Vedic literatures, such as the Upanishads and Vedanta Sutra, and their natural commentaries, such as Srimad Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad Gita. This edition of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita is presented for the study of sincere scholars who are really seeking the absolute truth. It is not the arrogant scholarship of a mental speculator, but a sincere effort to serve the order of a superior authority whose service is the life and soul of this humble effort. It does not deviate even slightly from the revealed scriptures, and therefore anyone who follows in the disciplic line will be able to realize the essence of this book simply by the method of oral reception. The first chapter of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita begins with 14 Sanskrit verses that describe the absolute truth. Then the next 3 Sanskrit verses describe the principal deities of Vrindaban, namely Sri Radha Madan-Mohan, Sri Radha Govinda and Sri Radha Gopinath. The first of the 14 verses is a symbolic representation of the supreme truth, and the entire first chapter is in actuality devoted to this single verse, which describes Lord Chaitanya in his 6 different transcendental expansions. The first manifestation described is the spiritual master who appears in 2 plenary parts, called the initiating spiritual master and instructing spiritual master. They are identical because both of them are phenomenal manifestations of the supreme truth. Next described are the devotees who are divided into 2 classes, namely the apprentices and the graduates. Next are the incarnations, avatars of the Lord, who are explained to be non-different from the Lord. These incarnations are considered in 3 divisions: incarnations of the potency of the Lord, incarnations of his qualities, and incarnations of his authority. In this connection, Lord Sri Krishna's direct manifestations and his manifestations for transcendental pastimes are discussed. Next considered are the potencies of the Lord, of which 3 principal manifestations are described: the consorts in the kingdom of God, Vaikuntha, the queens of Dwarkadam, and the highest of all, the damsels of Vrindaban, the damsels of Rajadam. Finally, there is the Supreme Lord himself, who is the fountainhead of all these manifestations. Lord Sri Krishna and his plenary expansions are all in the category of the Lord himself, the energetic absolute truth, whereas his devotees, his eternal associates, are his energies. The energy and the energetic are fundamentally one, but since their functions are differently exhibited, they are simultaneously different also. Thus, the absolute truth is manifested in diversity in one unit. The philosophical truth, which is pursuant to the Vedanta Sutra, is called Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva. This philosophical truth, which is pursuant to the Vedanta Sutra, is called Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva, or the conception of simultaneous oneness and difference. In the latter portion of this chapter, the transcendental position of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and that of Srila Nityananda Prabhu are described with reference to the above theistic facts. Okay, now we'll start with text 1. Bande Gurun Isha Bhaktan Isham Ishavatarakam Tat Prakasham Chatat Shakti Krishna Chaitanya Samgyakam. Bande Guru Nisha Bhaktan Isham Ishavatarakan Tat Prakasham Chatat Shakti Krishna Chaitanya Samgyakam. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the spiritual masters, the devotees of the Lord's incarnations, his plenary portions, his energies, and the primeval Lord himself, Sri Krishna Chaitanya. Bande Sri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Sahodito Gauda Desh Pushpavanto Chitro Shando Tamonudo. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Sri Krishna Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, who are like the sun and moon. They have arisen simultaneously on the horizon of Gauda to dissipate the darkness of ignorance, and thus wonderfully bestow benedictions upon all. Yad Advaitam Brahmopanishadi Tad Api Asya Tanuba Ya Atman Tarjami Purusha Iti So Shamsa Vibhava Shad Aishvaryai Purno Ya Isha Sad Aishvaryai Purno Ya Iha Bhagavan Sasvayamayam Na Chaitanyat Krishna's Jagati Paratatvam Paramiha Yadadvaitam Brahmo Panishadi Tad Api Asya Tanuba Ya Atmantar Jami Purusha Iti So Shamsa Vibhavaha Shad Aishvaryai Purno Ya Iha Bhagavan Sasvayamayam Na Chaitanyat Krishna's Jagati Paratatvam Paramiha. What the Upanishads describe as the impersonal Brahman is but the effulgence of his body, and the Lord, known as the Supersoul, is but his localized plenary portion. Lord Chaitanya is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna himself, full with 6 opulences. He is the absolute truth, and no other truth is greater than or equal to him. Anarpita charim chirat karuna yavatirna kalo samarpaitum unatojvala rasam svabhakti shriyam hari purata sundara duty kadamba sandipita sadarinaya kandare suratuva sachinandana. May the Supreme Lord, who is known as the son of Srimati Sachi Devi, be transcendentally situated in the innermost chambers of your heart, resplendent with the radiance of molten gold. He has appeared in the age of Kali by his causeless mercy to bestow what no incarnation has ever offered before, the most sublime and radiant mellow of devotional service, the mellow of conjugal love. Radha Krishna Pranaya Vikritir Ladini Shaktir Asmad Ekatmana Vapi Bhuvi Pura Deha Bedam Gatoto Chaitanyakyam Prakatam Adhuna Tadvayam Chaikyam Aptam Radha Bhava Duty Suvalitam Nomi Krishna Swarupam. The loving affairs of Sri Radha and Krishna are transcendental manifestations of the Lord's internal pleasure-giving potency. Although Radha and Krishna are one in their identity, they separated themselves eternally. Now these two transcendental identities have again united in the form of Sri Krishna Chaitanya. I bow down to him who has manifested himself with the sentiment and complexion of Srimati Radharani, although he is Krishna himself. Shri Radhaya Pranaya Mahima Kidrisho Vanaya Eva Svadyo Yenad Bhutta Madhurima Kidrisho Vamadiya Sokyam Chasha Mad Anubhavata Kidrisham Vetilobat Tad Bhavadya Samajani Sachigarba Sindo Harindu. Desiring to understand the glory of Radharani's love, the wonderful qualities in him that she alone relishes through her love, and the happiness she feels when she realizes the sweetness of his love, the Supreme Lord Hari, richly endowed with her emotions, appeared from the womb of Srimati Sachi Devi as the moon appeared from the ocean. Sankarshana Karana Toya Shankarshana Karana Toya Shayi Garboda Shayi Chapayobdi Shayi Seshas Cha Yashamsa Kalasa Nityanandakya Rama Sharanam Mamastu. May Sri Nityananda Ram be the object of my constant remembrance. Shankarshana, Seshanaga, and the Vishnus who lie on the Karana ocean, Garbha ocean, and ocean of milk are his plenary portions, and the portions of his plenary portions. Mayatite Vyapi Vaikuntha Loke Purnaishvarye Sri Chatur Vyuhamadye Rupam Yashodbhati Sankarshanakam Tam Sri Nityananda Ramam Prapadye. I surrender unto the lotus feet of Sri Nityananda Rama, who is known as Shankarshana in the midst of the Chatur Vyuha, consisting of Vasudeva, Shankarshana, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. He possesses 5 opulences and resides in Vaikuntha Loka, far beyond the material creation. Pardon me. I surrender unto the lotus feet of Sri Nityananda Ram, who is known as Shankarshana, in the midst of the Chaturvyuha, consisting of Vasudeva, Shankarshana, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. He possesses full opulences and resides in Vaikuntha Loka, far beyond the material creation. So the first time I said by mistake 5 opulences. It's full opulences. Nityananda Ram. He possesses full opulences and resides in Vaikuntha Loka, far beyond the material creation. Maya Bharta Janda Sangashrayanga Sheti Sakshad Karunam Bodhi Madhye Yashai Kamsha Sri Puman Adidevas Tam Sri Nityananda Ramam Prapadye. I offer my full obeisances unto the feet of Sri Nityananda Ram, whose partial representation called Karunodakashayi Vishnu, lying on the Karana ocean, is the original Purusha, the master of the illusory energy and the shelter of all the universes. Yashyam Sham Shah Srila Garbhodashayi Yanabi Abjam Loka Sangatanalam Loka Shrashtu Sutika Dhamma Dhatus Tam Sri Nityananda Ramam Prapadye. I offer my full obeisances unto the feet of Sri Nityananda Ram, a partial part of whom is Garbhodakshayi Vishnu. From the navel of Garbhodakshayi Vishnu sprouts the lotus that is the birthplace of Brahma, the engineer of the universe. The stem of that lotus is the resting place of the multitude of planets. Yashyam Sham Sham Sha Paratma Kilanam Poshta Vishnur Bhati Dugdhabdishayi Shoni Bharta Yat Kalasopyanantas Tam Sri Nityananda Ramam Prapadye. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the feet of Sri Nityananda Ram, whose secondary part is the Vishnu lying in the ocean of milk. That Kshirodakshayi Vishnu is the supersoul of all living entities and the maintainer of all the universes. Seshanaga is his further subpart. Mahavishnur Jagatkarta Mayayaya Sri Jatiyada Tashavatara Evayam Advaita Charya Ishvara. Lord Anantacharya, pardon me, Lord Advaitacharya. Lord Advaitacharya is incarnation of Mahavishnu, whose main function is to create the cosmic world through the actions of Maya. Lord Advaitacharya is incarnation of Mahavishnu, whose main function is to create the cosmic world through the actions of Maya. Advaitam Harinadvaitad Acharyam Bhakti Samshanat Bhaktavataram Isham Tam Advaitacharyam Ashraye. Because he's non-different from Hari, the Supreme Lord, he's called Advaita. And because he propagates the cult of devotion, he's called Acharya. He's the Lord and the incarnation of the Lord's devotee. Therefore, I take shelter of him. Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam. I offer my obeisances unto the Supreme Lord Krishna, who is non-different from his features as a devotee, devotional incarnation, devotional manifestation, pure devotee, and devotional energy. I offer my obeisances unto the Supreme Lord Krishna, who is non-different from his features as a devotee, devotional incarnation, devotional manifestation, pure devotee, and devotional energy. So what's being described here is actually the Panchatattva of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam. And we're always singing that verse. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda. So these are the first 14 verses. And what Srila Sridhar Maharaj also he talks about, one thing that's we are very fortunate to be able to get this understanding, the understanding of the Lord and his different expansions, where we can see the full have a full understanding of the activities of the Lord by understanding their sources. And what is the term that Srila Sridhar Maharaj uses? He uses ontology. My memory is failing me sometimes, but ontology, ontological understanding. So by understanding the ontology, then we can actually proceed in the Chaitanya Charitamrita and be able to more fully be able to understand and taste something of the descriptions and the pastimes that are presented. So now we'll start with the 15th verse, 16th and 17th, describing the principal deities of our acharyas and of Vrindaban. Jayatam surto pangor mama manda matergati matsarvasva parambojo Radha Madan-Mohano. Glory to the all-merciful Radha and Madan-Mohan. I am lame and ill-advised, yet they are my directors, and their lotus feet are everything to me. Divyad Vrindaranya Kalpadruma Srimad Ratnagara Simhasanasto Sri Radha Srila Govinda Devo Prashtalibi Sevyamano Smarami. Divyat Vrindaranya Kalpadrumad Srimad Ratnagara Simhasanasto Srimad Radha Srila Govinda Devo Prashtalibi Sevyamano Smarami. In a temple of jewels in Vrindaban underneath the desire tree, Sri Radha Govinda, served by their most confidential associates, sit upon an effulgent throne. I offer my humble obeisances to them. And then also we have as a, coming from this verse, Divyad Vrindaranya Kalpadrumad Srimad Ratnagara Simhasanasto Sri Gandharva Srila Govinda Sri Gandharva Srila Govinda Devo Prashtalibi Sevyamano Smarami. Is that right?
It's a little different in Chaitanya Charitamrita.
And we say Divyad Vrindaranya Kopadruma Srimad Ratnagara Simhasanasto Shri Radha Sri Gandharva Govinda Sundar Prashtalibi Sevyamano Smarani. So in the original verse, of course, is Divyad Vrindaranya Kopadrumad Srimad Ratnagara Simhasanasto Srimad Radha Srila Govinda Devo Prashtalibi Sevyamano Smarami. So those are the deities of Sri Radha Govinda. In a temple of jewels in Vrindaban underneath the desire tree, Sri Radha Govinda, served by their most confidential associates, sit upon an effulgent throne. I offer my humble obeisances unto them. Then, of course, Srila Sri Maharaj presented Divyad Vrindaranya Kopadruma Srimad Ratnagara Simhasanasto Sri Gandharva Srila what is it?
Yeah,
Sri Gandharva Srila
Govinda.
I think it's just that Radha has changed for Govinda outside for Gandharva.
Yeah. Divyad Vrindaranya Kalpadrumad Srimad Ratnagara Simhasanasto Sri Gandharva Srila Govinda Devo Prashtalibi Sevyamano Smarami. So this is, of course, these are what's being described in the Chaitanya Charitamrita are the deities of Srila Rupa Goswami, Sri Radha Govinda. But the variation that I mentioned, which is Sri Gandharva Srila Govinda Devo, Prashtalibi Sevyamano Smarami, that's describing the deities of Sri Navadip Dham. Sri Gandharva Govinda Sundar. Those are the deities of Srila Bhakti Rakak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj and Srila Govinda Maharaj, and our most worshipable deities, served by Srila Govinda Maharaj and Srila Bhakti Nirmal Acharya Maharaj. So, but this is you can say, Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojana. These are the Abhideya deities. Shriman Rasa Rasa Rambi Vamshivata Tatastita Karshan Venus Svanar Gopir Gopinatha Sri Estuna Sri Srila Gopinath, who originated the transcendental mellow of the Rasa dance, stands on the shore of Vamshivat and attracts the attention of the cowherd damsels with the sound of his celebrated flute. May they all confer upon us their benediction. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhaktivedanta. Glory to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda. Glory to Sri Chaitanya and Nityananda. Glory to Advaita Chandra. And glory to the devotees of Sri Gaura, Lord Chaitanya. 18 Thakur Gaudiyake Korijachena Atmashat. 18 Thakur Gaudiyake Korijachen Atmasat. 18 Era Charana Bandon Tine Moranat. These three deities of Vrindaban, Madan-Mohan, Govinda, and Gopinath, have absorbed the heart and soul of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, followers of Lord Chaitanya. I worship their lotus feet, for they are the lords of my heart. The author of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita offers his respectful obeisances unto the three deities of Vrindaban, named Sri Radha Madan-Mohan, Sri Radha Govinda Deva, Sri Radha Govinda Dev, and Sri Radha Gopinath. Those three deities are the life and soul of the Bengali Vaishnavas, or Gaudiya Vaishnavas, who have a natural aptitude for residing in Vrindaban. The Gaudiya Vaishnavas, who follow strictly in the line of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, worship the divinity by chanting transcendental sounds meant to develop a sense of one's transcendental relationship with the Supreme Lord, a reciprocation of mellows, rasas, of mutual affection, and ultimately the achievement of the desired success in loving service. So that's what I was describing, Sambandha Videya and Prayojana. The relationship, the service of that relationship, and the goal, which is Krishna Prema, love of Godhead. The three deities are worshipped in three different stages of one's development. The followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu scrupulously follow these principles of approach. Gaudiya Vaishnavas perceive the ultimate objective in Vedic hymns composed of 18 transcendental letters that adore Krishna as Madan-Mohan, Govinda, and Gopijana Vallabha. Madan-Mohan is he who charms Cupid, the god of love. Govinda is he who pleases the senses and the cows, and Gopijana Vallabha is the transcendental lover of the gopis. Krishna himself is called Madan-Mohan, Govinda, Gopijana Vallabha, and countless other names as he plays in his different pastimes with his devotees. The three deities, Madan-Mohan, Govinda, and Gopijana Vallabha, have very specific qualities. Worship of Madan-Mohan is on the platform of reestablishing our forgotten relationship with the personality of Godhead. In the material world, we are presently in utter ignorance of our eternal relationship with the Supreme Lord. Pango refers to one who cannot move independently by his own strength, and Mandamate is one who is less intelligent because he is too absorbed in materialistic activities. It is best for such persons not to aspire for success in fruitive activities or mental speculation, but instead simply to surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The perfection of life is simply to surrender to the Supreme. In the beginning of our spiritual life, we must therefore worship Madan-Mohan so that he may attract us and nullify our attachment for material sense gratification. This relationship with Madan-Mohan is necessary for neophyte devotees when one wishes to render service to the Lord with strong attachment. One worships Govinda on the platform of transcendental service. Govinda is the reservoir of all pleasures. When by the grace of Krishna and the devotees one reaches perfection in devotional service, he can appreciate Krishna as Gopijana Vallabha, the pleasure deity of the damsels of Braja. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explained this mode of devotional service in three stages, and therefore these worshipable deities were installed in Vrindaban by different Goswamis. They are very dear to the Gaudiya Vaishnavas there, who visit the temples at least once a day. Besides the temples of these three deities, many other temples have been established in Vrindaban, such as the temple of Radha Damodar, of Jiva Goswami, the temple of Sham Sundar, of Shamananda Goswami, the temple of Gokulananda, of Lokanath Goswami, and the temple of Radha Raman, of Gopal Bhatta Goswami. There are 7 principal temples over 400 years old that are the most important of the 5,000 temples now existing in Vrindaban. Gaudiya indicates the part of India between the southern side of the Himalayan mountains and the northern part of the Vindhya hills, which is called Aryavarta, or the land of the Aryans. This portion of India is divided into 5 parts or provinces: Pancha Gauda Desh, Saraswat, Kashmir and Punjab, Kanyakubja, Uttar Pradesh, including the modern city of Lucknow, Madhya Gauda, Madhya Pradesh, Maitila, Bihar and part of Bengal, and Utkala, part of Bengal and the whole of Orissa. Bengal is sometimes called Gauda Desh, partly because it forms a portion of Maitila, and partly because the capital of the Hindu king Raja Lakshman Sen was known as Gauda. This old capital later came to be known as Gaudapur and gradually Mayapur. The devotees of Orissa are called Udiyas. The devotees of Bengal, the devotees of Orissa are called Udiyas. The devotees of Bengal are called Gaudiyas, and the devotees of southern India are known as Dravida devotees. As there are 5 provinces in Aryavarta, so Dakshinatya, southern India, is also divided into 5 provinces, which are called Pancha Dravida. The 4 Vaishnava acharyas, who are the great authorities of the 4 Vaishnava disciplic successions, as well as Sripad Shankaracharya of the Mayavad school, appeared in the Pancha Dravida provinces. Among the 4 Vaishnavacharyas who were all accepted by the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, Sri Ramanujacharya appeared in the southern part of Andhra Pradesh at Mahabhutapuri. Sri Madhvacharya appeared at Pajakam near Vimanagiri in the district of Mangalore. Sri Vishnu Swami appeared in Pandya, and Sri Nimbarka appeared at Mungera Patana in the extreme south. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted the chain of disciplic succession from Madhvacharya, but the Vaishnavas in his line do not accept the Tattvavadis, who also claim to belong to the Madhva Sampradaya. To distinguish themselves clearly from the Tattvavadi branch of Madhva's descendants, the Vaishnavas of Bengal prefer to call themselves Gaudiya Vaishnavas. Sri Madhvacharya is also known as Sri Gauda Purnananda, and therefore the name Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya is quite suitable for the disciplic succession of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. Our spiritual master, Om Vishnupad, Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj, accepted initiation in the Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. Okay. Grantera Rambe Kori Mangalacharan Guru Vaishnava Bhagavan Tinera Smaran. In the beginning of this narration, simply by remembering the spiritual master, the devotees of the Lord and the personality of Godhead, I have invoked their benedictions. Tinera smarane hoy vigna vinashan anayase hoy nija vanshita puran. Such remembrance destroys all difficulties and very easily enables one to fulfill his own desires. Now, one thing I'm I'd like to mention is that Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupad is introducing the principal scripture, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, of our Sampradaya. And in doing so, he's also including information and making and commenting to be able to present this literature on all levels to a Western audience. And in his commentaries we see he's explaining things so that they can be understood both on a regular level of society by the devotees and also by scholars. And he's including that information. So, Grantera Rambe Kore Mangala Charan Guru Vaishnava Bhagavan Tinera Smaran. In the beginning of this narration, simply by remembering the spiritual master, the devotees of the Lord and the personality of Godhead, I have invoked their benedictions. Tinera Smarane Hoy Bigna Vinashan Anayase Hoy Nija Banshita Puran. Such remembrance destroys all difficulties and very easily enables one to fulfill his own desires. Harivalabha, I'm going to want to finish here. So can you play the mridanga?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Okay. Tinera smarane hoy vigna vinashan anayase hoy nija banshita puran. Such remembrance destroys all difficulties and very easily enables one to fulfill his own desires. In the beginning of the narration, simply by remembering the spiritual master and devotees of the Lord, the personality of Godhead, I've invoked their benedictions. Such remembrance destroys all difficulties and very easily enables one to fulfill his own desires or one's own desires. A Mangala Charana Hoy Trivida Prakar Vastu Nirdesha Asirbad Namaskar. Invocation involves three processes: defining the objective, offering benedictions, and offering obeisances. So, Mangala Charana, the invocation, involves Vastu Nirdesh, defining the objective, Ashirvad, offering benedictions, and Namaskar, offering obeisances. This is the three processes, or three fundamental points of the Mangala Charanam. Pratama-dui shloke ishtadeva namaskar samanya vishesha rupe duita prakar. The first two verses offer respectful obeisances generally and specifically to the Lord, who is the object of worship. So this is very important. It's here, Pratama-dui shloke ishtadeva namaskar. The ishtadeva, the worshipable deity, the worshipable Lord, is mentioned and is stated. When the literature should mention the Ishtadeva, to who the work is being offered, humbly offered. So, what is that? Those two verses of the Ishtadeva, which is mentioned here. Bande Gurun Isha Bhaktan Isham Ishavatarakam Tat Prakasham Chatat Shakti Krishna Chaitanya Samgyakam. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the spiritual master, unto the spiritual masters, the devotees of the Lord's incarnations, his plenary portions, his energies, and the primeval Lord himself, Sri Krishna Chaitanya. Bande Sri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Sahodito Godadaye Pushpabanto Chitra Shando Tamonulo. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Sri Krishna Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, who are like the sun and moon. They have arisen simultaneously on the horizon of Gauda to dissipate the darkness of ignorance and thus wonderfully bestow benediction upon all. So here, when we are mentioning the Lord in these when we're mentioning here the Lord in his offer obeisances, spiritual master, the devotees of the Lord's incarnations, his plenary portions, his energies, and the primeval Lord himself, Sri Krishna Chaitanya. And then offering of prayers to Mahaprabhu and Nityananda, we can understand. They are both, this is Ishtadeva, this is Mahaprabhu himself with his devotees. The worship, of course, is called the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Everything is being offered at the lotus feet of Mahaprabhu, and his showing of himself according to what we have heard and what we know, the Achintya Beta Beta Tattva. Everything is there. The Lord is simultaneously all these aspects, and at the same time there is difference. This is Mahaprabhu's, that is the essence of Mahaprabhu's divine philosophy, and that showing itself here is the Ishtadeva. Now, I'm going to now sing Hari Haraya, and so sometimes here, longer purports are being presented, and as much as possible by me, I will try to read the entirety of the book. Sometimes persons have asked me to do that. So we'll be proceeding in that way. And Srila Prabhupada, he said his own personal ecstasy is there in his purports. That's what the way. Hariharaya Nama Krishna Jaravaya Nama Jaravaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Nama Gopa Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan Giridhari Gopinath Madan-Mohan Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Chandra Dharanara Shiva Sadi Gauda Bhaktivedanta Jai Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath Hey Chai Gosai Kori Charana Bandhan Jaoite Vignana Shavishta Puran Jai Gosai Jar Mui Tarada Kasabar Bada Renu Mora Panchaga Kader Charana Sevi Bhakta Saniba Janame more Adi-lila Jai Gosai Jabe Baje Gwalabas Radha Krishna Nitya Lila Korila Prakash Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindaban Shri Guru Vaishnava Bhade Majai Aman Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koriyas Harinam Sankirtana Kohe Naratamada Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koriyas Harinam Sankirtana Kohe Naratamada Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna Krishna, Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama Rama, Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama Rama, Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gora Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo. Nitai Gora Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo. Jai Saparikara Shishi Guru Guranga Gandharvika Giridhara Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Nirmalacharya Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parabhajaka Chariyashta Tara Sadashi Shimad Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parabhajaka Chariyashta Tara Sadashi Shimad Srila Bhakti Rakshira Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Rupanuga Guru Varga Ki Jai. Namachari Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Shri Rupa Sanatana Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopal Bhatta Dasha Raghunath Shad Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. Premsi Go Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasade Shri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Vishvavarenya Srila Om Vishnupad Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Kusham Ashram Maharaj Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Navadip Dham Ki Jai. Shri Ramaya Kapoor Ki Jai. Saparshada Shri Nityananda Prabhu Ki Jai. Saparshada Shriman Mahaprabhu Ki Jai. Shri Koladvip Ki Jai. Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Ki Jai. Soquel Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Seva Ashram Ki Jai. Ganga Devi Ki Jai. Tulasi Maharani Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Shri Vrindaban Dham Ki Jai. Shri Radha Krishna Go Gopi Govardhan Shyam Kuna Radha Kunda Kalindi Yamuna Ju Ki Jai. Shri Purushottam Madam ki jai, Baladev Subhadra Jagannath Ji ki jai, Bhakti Vigna Vinashaya Shri Nrsingadev ki jai, Bhakta Prabhara Shri Prahlad Maharaj ki jai, Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai, Shri Vishaka Devi Dasi ki jai, all the assembled devotees ki jai, Shri Gaur Purnima Avirbhav ki jai. Tomorrow is Gaur Purnima. We will be celebrating that in a big way here in Soquel and in all our centers. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol.
Jai Om Vishnu Pad Srila Bhakti Pavan Janardan Maharaj Ki. Jai.